Welcome to Mental Health Matters. I'm Barbara Myers. On today's show, we're going to focus on a new program in Alameda County Behavioral Health System called the Family Education and Resource Center. And we're very pleased and honored to have as our guests today two people who have used the center. Karina Foote is the director of the center. And welcome, Karina.
Thanks for having me.
Be with us. And Peggy Hart is a mother of a son who has mental illness, and she has used the center, Family Education and Resource Center, something called FERC, F-E-R-C, and we're very honored to have you as our guest today. So welcome, Peggy.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I'd like to start talking about FERC with you, Karina. First of all, why is it necessary to have a special program for family members of people who have mental illness?
Thanks for asking that. You know, there are resources available for people who have the mental health issues or the emotional disturbances, and historically the family members are doing much of the caregiving and really maneuvering around the system in the dark, trying to figure out what to do best for their loved ones, and in the meantime not taking care of themselves. Alameda County Behavioral Health Care System recognized this and is trying to make some changes in that. And so this is the first contracted agency to assist with this. And I want to call out that we're a new program of the Mental Health Association of Alameda County, and we're very happy to have begun services in September of 2009.
What do we mean by a family? Is this biologically related, or are there people included as well?
That's a really good question. We actually have a purposefully very loose definition of family, and so rather than saying it has to be somebody biologically related to the person with the mental health issue, it is just simply somebody who cares about this person, cares or has concern for this person, and that can and should include such people as teachers, clergy, etc., those best friends, people in the community that care about the person suffering with this disorder.
That's really good. Could you tell us what FERC does, what kinds of services that you offer?
Yeah, I want to mention that we're a new program of the Mental Health Association of Alameda County. We opened in September of 2009, and in servicing family members who have loved ones with serious mental health disorders or serious emotional disturbances. Just to clarify, we service family members who have a loved one of any age that is suffering. So we are helping people with children all the way to older adults, parents or grandparents that are suffering. Some of the things that we offer in particular are just information and referrals, and I shouldn't say just, but we're really trying to be a nice clearinghouse of information and referral that's accurate, up to date, and a personal handoff rather than here's a number and good luck and we hope it works. We've really tried to do our research to make sure that it's accurate.
So what kind of referrals do you make, to doctors or to
good question.
other places?
Yeah, really, if you could imagine a family member calling our center, as Peggy has done, they will get an information and referral specialist who has information about, so here's what's happening to my loved one, and I'm looking for anything from housing resources to a clinician. If somebody said I wanted a clinician, we would refer them to places in the county where they would do that intake assessment with healthcare professionals to see where the best referral would be.
Okay.
And otherwise, we have family advocates who are there as part of our services to offer a listening ear, hope, support, education as well. So we offer a number of services.
So the advocates are people who've been there before. They've gone through the system, and so they know what is involved with a family member.
Yeah, all of our staff are family members themselves. And that's been a real comfort to people who are calling our center, to know that our quote is, we've been there, we can help. And we really have all been there. And you know, we're there to be those eyes and ears for when you don't know what's next or what's in the black hole of a complex system, or what help I could be receiving that I don't even know about. Typically the family members don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah. Who can use your services? Is there a qualification for that you have to do to qualify to use them? Or?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm really happy to be able to say anybody that calls us, we will offer assistance to. We're certainly focusing on the family members, and we don't have criteria, meaning you don't have to be at some economic level, you don't have to be in or out of Medi-Cal. Other organizations have certain criteria who they can and cannot serve, and we're very fortunate to say, just give us a call and we'll assist.
Is there any charge for using the services?
Our services are all free of charge. And so that's just another...
So you're funded by Alameda County Behavioral Health Care?
We're contracted through Alameda County Behavioral Health Care. They have a contract directly with the Mental Health Association of Alameda County. The funds come from the Mental Health Services Act. So that is the taxing of people whose income lands at the end of the year over $1 million. 1% of their income goes specifically to support mental health. And so counties throughout the state are receiving the benefits of those to support specifically mental health and to implement new and innovative services.
How many offices do you have?
We are slated to have 5 offices, and we're currently open as we speak. Our main office is in the Eastmont Town Center in Oakland. Second office is located currently in Hayward at La Familia Clinic. We will be moving locations probably in about a year's time. The county is purchasing a large building where they'll be co-locating a number of social services. We have an office in the Fremont Family Resource Center, and we have another office opening up at the Maine Mental Health Association office on 60th. And lastly, we are in the midst of seeking a site in Livermore, and we intend to be downtown Livermore, co-located with other services.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh. That's impressive for a brand new organization to have that vision of knowing where you're going. That's really good.
Our goal is to really be dispersed equitably around the county, and in particular to places where there's a dearth of services. We're trying to come and assist.
Now, if somebody were to come to an office, what would they find there in the office?
Yeah, we're very proud of our offices. We've tried to make sure that they have a welcoming type of environment. And when you walk in, there are things such as computers that a family member can use to research, printers, phones for local phone calls. We have a beautiful resource library that is chock full of up-to-date books, DVDs, and CDs. Some people have even mentioned to me that they're in school in psychology and they know to come here sometimes because we've got the latest and greatest.
I see Peggy's nodding her head. She must
have
taken use of that.
Yes. And it's free of service, free of charge. So come on and check things out and bring them back when you're done. And so that's really nice. And we've got advocates housed in each office, of course. And in one of our main offices, we also have a children's center. Our vision is that when we have support groups there, and if it would be helpful to the family members to be able to come, their children could be cared for there. So that's set up. As we speak, it's March 2010 right now. That's not open yet, but we have visions for, advancing the services that we offer over time.
Can you give some examples of what kind of education that you offer or that you refer people to?
We offer services one-on-one with families at large, and I say at large. Peggy's a good example where, she's come in with herself, family members, godparents and friends of her son, etc. And we would say, what is this mental illness? What isn't it? And talk through and helping the family members understand where are the loved one's strengths and how do we boost this person up and support them. There's also classes that we hold. Not only are we charged with focusing on classes for family members, but we also are offering informational classes for providers in the county. Everything from specific topics that have been identified in their contract to things that they say they need. We're also going to be working closely with providers in the county to help them understand how to work more effectively with family members, and conversely, helping the family members work more effectively with the providers so that the treatment team is effective.
Right.
So
you aren't at cross purposes.
Exactly, exactly. So we've got things in place where we're beginning to work with providers in that regard. Very exciting.
How does this fit in with the family-to-family education program that the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI,
Yes.
has.
Yes, we work really diligently to have a tight, close working relationship with the 3 NAMI affiliates in the county. And for example, all of our family members, all of our staff who are family members have either gone through or we put them through the Family to Family class. It is such an excellent class. The NAMI program is a 12-week class.
Right, I know that, yeah.
For family members. Some of our staff are even advancing through to be trainers of Family to Family. So where the NAMI affiliates are telling us we'd like to host more classes, and if FERC can come in and fill in a gap, then we're happy to do so. So part of our charge is to help NAMI be all that it can be and boost them up. We're always referring. We do 100% referral of our clients to NAMI. They're such a wonderful organization.
If someone, I just want to sort of talk through this. If someone has a family member who is in some sort of a mental health crisis and they call you at your number, let's see, it's 888-896-3372, and if they call you, what is it that happens when they call you?
Yeah, so when they call, they will first be in touch with the warm line operator, and so we call it, it's not a crisis line. However, the person might feel that they're having a crisis, but it's not a medical emergency or psychiatric emergency.
Right.
And so we will listen to the person's story, and what the first person is listening for, our warm line operator, is listening for where is it that you might need some help organizing. You know, you've got a laundry list of problems. Let's help organize them, and what are the top. And if there's some information and referrals that the family member needs to get started, sometimes we'll get a call and it'll be, my loved ones, I just found out they're going to be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. What do I need to do? I can't take them home. Here's why. What am I supposed to do? We'll help them problem solve. Then they'll always get a referral to a family advocate. And the family advocate is the person who would be working one-on-one, side-by-side with the family member in whatever way is necessary. So sometimes they will be on the phone with the family member daily, and then it could be weekly. It could be we don't hear from them for a month, and then again they're back. Whatever meets the need of the family member. And so it's a person to be by your side, knowing what the future might hold for you and discussing options with the family member.
Giving them hope, you know.
Giving them hope, exactly. You know, that just pausing amidst all of it and asking, how are you doing? And so many family members are sort of taken aback by, what are you talking about? I was not thinking about me at all. This is so very typical.
Yeah. Now I'd like to talk with Peggy about some of the experience that she's had in her family and how she used the FERC Center. So could you tell us about the experience that you've had with your family member?
Well, it started looking for my son a job who was already in crisis and no one was listening. And I happened to pick up the phone and call looking for one thing and ended up finding the FRIC department, and it was like a miracle. It was like something I had been looking for over a year. And nobody was listening.
So your son had been having mental health problems for a year previously?
You know, he was really quiet, but I knew something was going on, and I was watching and didn't know where to go. And nobody was really listening to what was going on, but he was getting ready to go through crisis. And I
was he hospitalized for that, or?
He had been hospitalized earlier, and he was kind of unstable but tilting. And I went into the office, and I was greeted by very friendly, warm people. And we started to work. And we had meetings and trying to get things together or what we were going to do. But at this particular time, he wasn't in crisis yet, but I felt it was getting ready to come. And that gave me the tools. So when he did go into crisis, I knew what to do and how to do, and had the power of saying, okay, we're going to do this like this, and okay, I'm going to call this person. I had my advocate behind me from the FRIC Center who was telling me, okay, Miss Peggy, this, that, another, okay, we're going to work through this. And that was the power right there, was to have someone behind me to help me and support me through the crisis I was going through. Because in this world, this new world I was walking into, without the support, I don't know what I would have done.
Right.
You know, I didn't know how to talk.
Mhm.
They brought my son's grandparents, his friends, all of us in there, and we were able to support him, not only him, myself.
Mm.
And
So you were able to get a whole support network around you and your son to be as effective as you could in battling
We're still
the
building.
illness. Yeah,
we're still building that support.
that's great.
Yes,
Yeah, it's really nice.
yes.
So, how did you learn about FERC? Do you remember?
No,
even?
yes, I remember it, and it's like I'm saying, we went to, I went looking for my granddaughter. She was looking for a job. I was talking to someone, and I talked to my son about getting a part-time job. And so they said, well, why don't you call this one particular crisis line? But when I got to this crisis line, it was not what I was looking for, but it was what I was looking for.
Right. Without you
And
knowing.
I'm very vocal, so I started talking, and the lady on the other end, she said, well, why don't you come in and see me? And I was like, okay, well, might be somewhere I need to go. So I came in one morning, and they weren't even, I don't even know if they were open. They had their grand opening yet. And I walked in, and everybody greeted me, and I said, okay, this might be where I need to be. So from there, we picked up one piece, went to the next piece, and then we started building, and I started feeling comfortable, and everybody was there for me and my son, and my other son who was supporting me, and then we started talking about what I thought would be the support system we needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started building from there.
That's good. So it sounds like it's individualized hand-holding, sort of, you know. So.
They wiped away a lot of my tears and my fears.
Yeah. Well, that's good. What would you advise to someone if they had a situation with a mental health crisis in their family?
Well, first of all, I would tell a person, you need the support. You can't do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely call Fred. I would give them the number of Fred, tell them to get on the phone, talk to the person, tell the person what you need and what you're feeling, even if it comes to tears. You know, because they're there to listen. Because I've shedded a lot of tears, and they were there to listen and hold my hand.
Yeah.
And that's what we need in this world, this new world that a lot of us are facing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us don't know what it is, and a lot of us don't talk about it because it's scary.
How do you think it benefits others when people speak out about mental illness like this, like you're doing now and like you've done it?
How do I think it benefits? First of all, people won't be scared to talk about it anymore. I'm not scared anymore. I didn't know. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people, like with youth, they look at it as, oh, he's on drugs, and not looking at the real picture. They don't take that next step and say, well, let's take this child to the hospital and have him drug tested or see what's going on with this child. Well, I was one of the people, I wanted to find out what was going on with my child because I knew my child. And I knew this was not his regular behavior.
Yeah.
And once I found out it was not drugs, then it gave me the power, okay, then let's work on the issue and the problem at hand. And then I worked into another world that I didn't know about. And it opened up doors. And then once I started talking, then all these people that I was around me started talking, oh, guess what's going on in my family?
Yeah.
Guess what's going on in my family? Guess what's going on in my... Well, why aren't we talking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is nobody talking?
Yeah.
It's time to talk.
I agree completely. Yeah.
You know.
That's good. And good for you to have that.
And there's so much in the young, in the youth. And a lot of people are diagnosing one thing when it's not that. When we need to really just set up and say, okay, let's work with these issues. And all these issues are not scary, and a lot of them are workable. But all we need to do is sit down and support one another.
It is true.
Good.
And I'll just add, too, that knowing that there's hope, that there's wellness, that there's a potential for levels of recovery.
Yeah.
When you're so afraid and you're so worried, it's good to be able to talk with others and find out about that as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
Karina, I know you're the director of FERC, but you also are the mother of children that have mental illness, and I'd like to ask you a little bit about what your experience was and how your experience helped motivate you to do this kind of work.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I have family members that worked in psychiatry, and I sort of wondered what motivated them, and I didn't know, and I thought I had really little interest in it, even though I've worked in healthcare all of my life. And then when I began down the journey with family members that have serious mental health issues, you know, it just became a passion for me. Once I started to see the disparities in the healthcare system at large, everything down to the inability to get certain types of coverage, insurances. When my son couldn't go on a trip, his wasn't reimbursable because it was supposedly not a medical issue when it absolutely is a brain disorder. And I wanted to be part of fixing the system. And so I just got the passion in me, and I know I won't work anywhere else but in mental health from here forward. And I think that is the driver when we're going through our ups and downs to keep us all moving is, you know, if I can make my part, whatever that means, of the things I'm working on better, that's my goal. And yeah, so it's been a very bumpy School of Hard Knocks journey until I myself found a family advocate that assisted me very much, sort of feeling like I was going through the dark, and I'd like to be part of that light to help shine ahead of others.
How did you find that family advocate yourself?
Ultimately, you know, somebody eventually mentioned NAMI to me, and through NAMI, I was referred to an advocate working in the county that I lived in at the time.
Right.
And so many, like you, doors became opened, and I benefited from that myself. But unfortunately, having to sort of knock around for a couple of years, bumping walls, and feeling in the dark. So I'm glad now to be part of a program that offers more of this, people that are dedicated hours, full-time jobs, to assisting family members. So yeah, thanks for asking.
I'd like to ask both of you if you could give an example of some specific thing that you were bumping into before you knew about family advocates.
One of the things, the empathy out there, the people who advocates out there, a lot of them are not there. They don't have the compassion, and they're just there. And the way they talk to us is like, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm in crisis. I'm trying to help my child. You hear me? And people need to be more sympathetic to our cries. And a lot of us in this out here, they turn our back. There are a lot of people like me who are parents. After work, being out here so long, they turn our backs, but everybody don't turn their backs. So a lot of us out there for the long haul. I'm there for my child, and not only for my child, anybody else who needs help. I'm there for them. And we should not be just shut aside and put in a closet. And more people need to be vocal, and they need to come out those back rooms and start standing up and start talking.
So the advocates gave you the strength of knowing that there was somebody with you and behind you and had walked that road before and could tell you that, yes, what you're asking is reasonable, and yes, it's okay to advocate for your child, and, you know, yes, you're doing the best job you can for your loved one.
Gave me power.
Yeah,
and
right.
strength.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's
Gave
great.
me power and strength.
To read that in your face. That's great. And how about you?
Yeah, for me, sometimes it's things that may sound simplistic, but it would be things like, well, you know, my son was ill and then turned 18 pretty quickly. Everything changed with his being 18 and an adult, and suddenly I wasn't even able to speak to his provider. And so finally, once I found out about things, there are forms called AB 1424 that allow the family members by law to give information in. Sometimes it's things that may sound simple but are hugely important, where I could feed information in where I didn't know. Again, to, I think, connecting myself with others in a similar boat that I didn't know existed, to know that there's hope for the future, because it's amazing how hopeless things can seem in the moments. And I think that, you know, getting in touch with the advocates touched put me in place with other family members, and I could see, okay, you're 5 and 10 and 15 years further down the road from me, and I see how people do improve and do recover. And recovery can mean many things to many people, but moving in the direction of getting back in the community and healthy. And so,
Thank you very much. Now what I'd like to do is to talk to those of you who are watching this television program and give you a challenge. Do you know someone who is having difficulty with a family member who has mental illness? If so, I'd like for you to think about what you learned from this program, from Karina and from Peggy, and decide what you might recommend to help this person. I'll give you a hint on what you might do. The FERC telephone number, keeping it handy would be good, and the number is 888-896-3372. So I'll give that to you as a challenge. There are several resources that I'd like to mention for this subject. First of all, of course, it's the Family Education and Resource Center FERC website, and the website is on your screen. So as you heard, it'll help you to know what to do in a crisis, help you get educated, refer you to support groups, and possibly even employment opportunities as an advocate. Once you get the skills down, once you know how to do, then you can help the next person up. The Mental Health Association of Alameda County was the sort of the parent organization for FERC. Its basic charter is to improve care and treatment for people who have mental illness and for their family caregivers. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, which we've heard about here in NAMI, website is nami.org. And there's also a organization called United Advocates of Children and Families that's on the website, and that gives support and information for parents whose children receive mental health services. So these are all organizations that you can either call or find on the internet and learn more information about it. I'd like to thank our guests for being here. Thank you, Karina, and thank Peggy for being on the show. And I'd like to close with these words from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there's another truth. You are not alone. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.